What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of EJ's Press. I'm your host, EJ, and today we are talking about Captain Marvel. This is the second part of my rambling series of Captain Marvel videos. If you missed the first one, it's on my channel. Just go back one video, it's right there. And it concerns Captain Marvel herself as a character. This video, the second, is going to talk a bit more about the lead up to the movie itself, what we've seen and heard about the movie from the cast, from the directors, some of the media surrounding it, the official media surrounding it, the trailers and that sort of thing. And that is what we're going to be talking about in this video. So without further ado, let's ramble on about Captain Marvel. So, Captain Marvel is coming out March 8th. And we've been expecting this movie for a couple years now. It was officially announced 2 years ago. We were teased a picture of Captain Marvel's symbol on a little pager that was dropped by Nick Fury as he died at the end of Avengers Infinity War. And that was the first look we got in the Marvel Cinematic Universe at the idea that there is a Captain Marvel. So, from there, we got a little bit of silence. There was no news about it really from that scene in Infinity War until after Ant-Man and the Wasp, because it makes, it's understandable. Disney wouldn't want to overshadow the aggressively mediocre Ant-Man and the Wasp with something more interesting or entertaining. But anyway, my opinions about the fact that we shouldn't have a comedic side character leading a movie with a cast of 3 or 4 other comedic side characters aside is the trailers that started dropping. These came out, I believe, 2 months ago was the drop of the first one, possibly a little sooner. But it started with this montage of shots of Captain Marvel doing Captain Marvel things, flying through space, training in U.S. Air Force boot camp, flying a jet, and talking to Nick Fury, who Samuel L. Jackson digitally de-aged to look 30 years younger in the 1990s. So, we didn't see at that point the blue and red costume that she eventually wears. As I recall, the first trailer only showed her in the green and black that she's wearing when she's flying with the Kree. We didn't see her using her hand blasts, anything like that. I believe we got a shot of the mohawk and the blue energy face mask. But other than that, the preview mostly served to show that Captain Marvel is a woman who has faced adversity her entire life, who has always been an outsider, who has always faced hardship, who has always been kicked and beaten down and told you can't do it, and continues to struggle and strive onward. And the trailer left me incredibly bored. It's an underdog story. It's great. I love those kinds of stories. I love superhero origin stories. They're the fun ones. They're the ones where we get to play around and see what makes them different. But none of the characters had any charisma. There was no sense of actual adversity in the eyes of Brie Larson. Her facial expression was always either, I am grim and determined, or this is so stupid, why am I here? She alternated between angry and unlikable. That didn't strike a very good nerve with me. And you can downvote me for my misogyny for expecting a superhero to be likable, but it just wasn't a charismatic look. It did not give me anything to say, hey, you should really see this movie. It told me the opposite. It told me that Brie Larson didn't want to be there. That she actually was unhappy with being on set. She hated being in the costume. I got the impression that she didn't like any of her co-stars. It felt like there was a lot of behind-the-scenes drama going on in the movie. I think I was wrong. I think they do get along now, having seen more and heard more from the cast. But at first, it just felt a little off. I didn't see any reason that it was going to be anything big and exciting, because it was using visuals that we'd seen before. It was using stuff that looked kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but slightly less weird and trippy. And so it also had some touches of Thor. The first Thor from 2009, 2010? 2010. Where powerful, mighty hero comes down to Earth, learns humility, and becomes worthy again to carry this phenomenal cosmic power. But I also got the impression that there was never any humbling going on. I had to sincerely hope that there was, because there were some lines in that trailer that really rubbed me the wrong way. There were a lot of moments in that trailer where I just thought, this is a superhero? The big one that stood out to me first is Nick Fury is driving her in a truck somewhere through some desert area, which again got me some Thor flashbacks. And Nick Fury she's apparently told her story to Nick Fury. She at this point thinks she's a Kree warrior. She thinks she's an alien. And Nick Fury says, so you're a force of alien warriors? Heroes, she says. Alien warrior heroes. And she insists it. She doesn't just say, well, we're heroes, we are alien warrior heroes, we're out there doing the right thing. It's just, oh, we're heroes. We're alien warrior heroes. And she does that little head nod that, oh yeah, I know I'm all that. Which smacks of early game arrogance. But then we get the line later. We get the line at the end of the trailer. I'm not going to fight your war. I'm going to end it. Which, from most characters, in most contexts, is a line being given by a world-weary, battle-weary warrior, an old man who's past his prime, who's tired of the young ones fighting, who's finally said, enough of this crap, I'm going to take care of business. It's the attitude of Wolverine in Logan. It's the attitude of Clint Eastwood's character in The Unforgiven, where I don't want this, but I'm gonna do it, and it's gonna be done. It should be delivered in kind of this aggravated, why do you keep bugging me for this, stop asking kind of tone of, I'm not gonna fight your war. I'm gonna end it. Something like that. She gives it in a different tone of voice. I'm not gonna fight your war. I'm gonna end it. And you can hear this confident sneer, this smirk in every line she delivers, but that one and the hero's line in particular, where she comes across as overconfident. And if what I've heard about the plot of the movie is true, what I've heard thus far about the plot of the movie is true, then there's no place that line can really be delivered except at the end of the movie, when she should have learned the lesson about humility by now, when she should have had her revelation of, oh, I'm kind of a jerk, I need to get my crap together, and I need to get in shape to take on the responsibility of being a hero. But instead, it seems like it's a game to her. It seems like it's, look at me, I'm better than all of you, you're so incompetent, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do it right the first time, because I'm better than you. It smacks of arrogance. It's not heroic. It is not a heroic thing. So that was my reaction to the first trailer. And the second trailer was largely the same. We got to see her flying around in her blue and red suit. We got to see her hand blasts. It looked okay. I got flashbacks to the first trailer of Justice League, which was unfinished CGI. It didn't look finished. It looked poorly animated, just kind of thrown together, which is weird for a second trailer. Usually by that point they've worked out the kinks and they've got a more finished looking product, but it actually looked rougher than the first trailer. And she does smile in this one. There was the outcry of, people saying, she doesn't smile, she doesn't seem like a likable character, she seems like kind of a jerk. And the response of, well, you're just misogynist, how dare you tell a woman to smile, how dare you tell her to give one of the basic human social signals of positivity, of reliability, relatability. But she smiled in the second trailer. We got basically the same situation. I didn't come away with any different feelings. It was just more of, this doesn't look very entertaining or engaging. And again, Brie Larson, the actress for Captain Marvel, came across abrasively. She came across as someone who didn't want to be there, or at the very least didn't want to be doing the things she was told to do. It seemed like she would rather be doing something else. And this is about when some of the other social media outcries started. This is when some of the controversies started showing up, because the claim was made and backed up by video that Brie Larson did not want white men reviewing the movie. She did not want a white man to watch Captain Marvel and give his opinion on it because it wasn't for him, so his opinion is invalid. And to that I say, what the heck? Okay, I'm sure it would mean more to hear and she gave the example of A Wrinkle in Time. She wanted to hear what biracial teens wanted to hear about it. I'm sure a biracial teen's saying that A Wrinkle in Time inspired me means more than a 40-year-old man saying A Wrinkle in Time inspired me. But the statement that A Wrinkle in Time's sound engineering was abominable is just as true coming from a biracial teen as it is coming from a 40-year-old white man, because facts are facts. A film critic is probably going to be a white man. They do hold more by percentage seats than other demographic groups in the camp of film criticism. That is not to say that there are no female film critics. That is not to say there are no black film critics. It is only to say there are more of white men in the field. And that was something she was going to have to deal with if she wanted to get good press coverage. But she wanted to make sure that we took out some of the white men in her press junkets and put in some diversity in terms of the film critics and journalists that were let in. I'm all for letting in other journalists. I'm all for letting in diverse journalists to come and sit in on our press junkets, but don't kick people out for the color of their skin. Don't make negative value judgments or positive value judgments based on external features like skin color, gender, or sexuality. Those are not good ways to decide whether someone is good or not. And that was the metric that Brie Larson wanted to impose on who was allowed to have an opinion on this movie, who was allowed to tell people whether the movie was good or bad. And that makes me a little suspicious. It makes me wonder, because a lot of the harsher film critics tend to be white men as well. They tend to be a bit more focused on the categorical qualities of a film, partly because of the publications that typically hire diversity journalists, publications who hire not based on merit but based on skin tone, tend to lean further left, tend to focus more on the messaging and the political aspects of a film than this worked well, these actors had chemistry, these actors were not good together, the light, the lighting on set was bad, or the soundtrack was really fitting for a lot of the scenes. Stuff like that typically comes up in the top critics who are divorcing themselves from the politics, divorcing themselves from the effects of the movie, the messages that the movie carries, and it seemed that she wanted to kick those top critics out, which rubs me the wrong way, because it's saying, as a creator, the higher profile I can get in terms of somebody seeing what I do, the better I feel. Even if it's even if Kevin Smith or Roger Ebert were to see a movie based on my books and say this was crap, this sucked, I'd still kind of feel good, because I'd say, you know what, he probably knows what he's talking about and I can learn from this. But hey, he saw it, you know? And there was this sense of they don't want people to see the movie when she came out and said that. And then social media, some of the radical left nerd culture, social justice warrior culture kind of started coming up and saying, yeah, we don't want white men to see our movie. This is a movie for us. It's not for you. Stay out of the theater. Don't taint it with your presence. You don't get to have an opinion. And to that I say, it's a superhero movie. Guys like me go see superhero movies. Guys in there from 18 to 28 see superhero movies more than any other demographic. So what you're saying is you don't want your target audience, the target audience of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to come see this movie. In which case I have to wonder who's the movie for if it's not for the people who pay the bills. And the answer seems to be radical feminists. Because Brie Larson doubled down. She continued to say inflammatory things. She continued to laugh at people who said that's kind of racist and sexist to say you don't want white men in your movie. The media tended to run with it. A lot of nerd sites, for example, Nerdist ran with articles saying, "Hey, you gotta, this isn't for white men. White men don't need to tell us what you thought of this movie. We don't need to hear what you thought." And that's just, I don't need to hear what anybody thinks about a movie, but I'm going to have an opinion. My opinion is just as valid as yours, regardless of the color of my skin. But leading up to the film, the divides just keep getting deeper, and it's getting harder and harder to look forward to this movie if you're paying attention to it at all. If for no other reason than people are going to be incensed around it. And it's kind of the same effect that The Last Jedi had, where people were very offended by the way it treated Luke Skywalker, by the way the story structure. A lot of the characters rubbed people the wrong way, and it turned into this battleground. And as a result, mainstream audiences who don't care about any of that started to back away because they're like, evidently there's something crazy going on with this movie, and we don't really see the need to be engaged in that. So you ended up with a movie that grossly underperformed what a Star Wars movie should. And I'm worried that that's going to happen to Captain Marvel. If, regardless of the quality, I still think it's going to make a net profit. I think Marvel's going to make some money off of this. I don't think it's going to be as much as they wanted. I think even if you don't pay attention to the people who say, this movie is going to be terrible because feminism, or this movie is going to be great because feminism, part of the things that's going to turn people off is the fact that the defining comments of whether it's going to be good or not are feminism. Politics, identity politics specifically, are going to drive people away from movie theaters. That's been proven. We've seen it time and again. Anytime an entertainment company or any sort of company go for identity politics or any sort of big statement that doesn't go with, that runs contrary rather to their primary audience, it hurts. Star Wars suffered. Last Jedi got half the proceeds that Force Awakens did. Solo was the first Star Wars movie to lose money because of the bad feeling left in the mouths of fans after Last Jedi, and the way that Lucasfilm doubled down on the statements they had made and doubled down on the position they had taken. EA with Battlefield 5, where they took women and put them into the combat units and said, yes, there were women fighting in World War II, so you had the option to play as a woman, regardless of the fact that there were no women in American and British uniforms fighting in World War II unless they had disguised themselves, unless they had said, I'm going to pretend to be a boy. There were no women openly being women in the trenches. The French resistance, the Polish resistance, they had women in them. The Soviet, the Night Witches in Soviet Russia, they were really cool. They were not standard combat units in the American and British armies or in the German army. And people kind of said, hey, you guys, we like World War II video games because we like history. We like historical battles, and this is not historical. This is messing with it. It feels like there's no real reason to do it. Why are you doing it? And EA's response was to say, if you don't like it, don't buy it. And people listened. And Battlefield 5 was a disaster. I don't know if it broke even. I don't know how much it cost to make, but I know it did not make as much as they wanted it to. It came in at about half what they projected as far as their net profit, or not necessarily profit, as far as their net income. It came in much lower, the gross income rather, came in much lower than they're expected. So it's a dangerous road that Marvel is walking, because they haven't said anything to silence Brie Larson or Sam L. Jackson, who just a week ago came out and compared the president to a plantation owner when asked how he felt about the things that President Trump has done for African Americans. They called him Sam L. Jackson called him a plantation owner. Disney has done nothing. Marvel have done nothing to come out and say, hey, that's not the position of our company. We don't agree. We don't endorse that. That's not what we want to make our movies about. Instead, they've been silent. They've allowed their actors to kind of run their mouths. They did the same with Chris Evans has said some really inflammatory things. Mark Ruffalo has said some really inflammatory things about Americans who vote right, and on political right, not correct. Americans who vote conservative get badmouthed by a lot of Marvel and Disney's actors, and the actors don't get punished. And so there's starting to be this whiff of unpleasantness about Disney themselves. So as we came closer to this week leading up to Captain Marvel, and I'd say probably a week from yesterday is where things really hit the fan. As we came closer, there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of negative press. It was a PR nightmare for Disney, and they didn't do a whole lot to keep it quiet. So my feelings started mediocre and have gone downhill from there. But what do I know? I'm just rambling on. Hey, did you like listening to me ramble on? Well, go ahead and like and subscribe. It'll really help me out. Thanks.